Are you planning to visit several tourist attractions in Spain and wondering if you should book your tickets in advance? In this video, we are going to try to answer that question. To do so, we have divided the attractions we are going to talk about into three categories. In the first category, those attractions where it may be worth booking in advance. In the second category, those attractions where it is recommended to book in advance. And finally, in the third category, those more critical attractions where it is absolutely necessary to book in advance. There are two main reasons why people book their tickets in advance. The first one is obvious, to make sure that you will be able to visit the attractions for which you are buying the ticket, avoiding queues if possible. The second reason is to plan for expenses. Some people like to plan all their expenses before they travel, and so do we. Even if it's not essential, those people buy the ticket in advance and settle the expense before traveling. Before we start with a list of attractions, let's give some basic and necessary context. Oh my God, you cannot imagine the amount of tourists Spain is receiving at the moment. The number of visitors to Spain has not stopped growing year after year, with the only interruption of the pandemic. In 10 years, the number of visitors has gone from 60 million to 85 million. That is 15 million more. A mind-blowing growth rate. And those millions of tourists are everywhere, and their presence is noticeable because most of them go to the places where other tourists go. As a result, queues to access tourist attractions have grown long, and places that were quiet before the pandemic now require planning before traveling. You know that place you visited 6 years ago? It may have queues today that didn't exist when you last visited. Of course, queues can change along depending on the time of the year. In high season, it is always more critical to secure tickets in advance than in quieter months. And here's a word of warning. In the first commentary below the video, we will put links to the websites where we recommend you to buy your tickets. But be careful, because there is a real epidemic of websites that try to look like official websites, but they are just sites of some smart guy who sells or resells tickets at much higher prices. Don't fall into the trap. We already warned you about this problem in our video on the Sagrada Familia tickets, but beware of websites dedicated to the Alhambra in Granada and many other popular attractions. Always buy from a legitimate website. So let's move on to the attractions. We start with a category of those worth booking in advance. Here we have included attractions that, especially in low season or early in the day, do not require you to buy a ticket in advance, but where, if you want to be sure, it may be a good idea to secure that ticket by buying it in advance. The Reina Sofia Museum in Madrid tends to be quiet first thing in the morning, but it can get from crowded to very crowded at other times of the day or with huge queues on a rainy day. Still in Madrid, in the case of the Santiago Bernabeu Stadium, although it is not essential to buy the ticket in advance, it can be a good idea to avoid queues at the ticket office. The new stadium attracts many visitors who want to discover it. In Barcelona, the Camp Nou is being remodeled and it is not a good time to visit it. But when the new stadium is completed, it may also be worth buying the ticket in advance. Still in Barcelona, it may be worth buying tickets in advance for 3 modernist buildings declared World Heritage Sites by UNESCO. The first is a work by Antoni Gaudí, Casa Batlló on the Paseo de Gracia. There can be long lines during midday hours in high season. And the same goes for Gaudí's second great work on Paseo de Gracia, La Pedrera. There can be long lines during the day in the high season. A ticket purchased in advance for Casa Batlló and La Pedrera ensures that you will skip the line and enter at the time you booked it for. The third building is the Palau de la Música Catalana, designed by the modernist architect Domènec i Muntaner. It does not receive as many visitors as the aforementioned houses, but the guided tours, which are really worthwhile, have a limited number of places available. The extraordinary Mosque Cathedral of Córdoba is quiet most of the year, but can be crowded at times when there are many tourists in Córdoba. At these times, it may be worth booking your entrance in advance. And mind you, it's not easy to tell which dates are the busiest for tourists in Córdoba. It can be any time of the year except for the summer months. The Aljaferia Palace in Zaragoza is also usually quiet throughout the year, but if you want to take a guided tour, it may be worth booking your ticket in advance, especially during the weekends. Gibralfaro Castle in Malaga does not restrict the number of visitors, but at peak times, the queue at the ticket vending machines can be so slow. And if you are buying a ticket for the castle, take the opportunity to buy a combined ticket for the beautiful Alcazaba with a small discount. The Alcazaba is next to the castle. Although you can visit the interior of the Cathedral of Santiago de Compostela for free, including, if you're very lucky with dates and times, the incredible show of the Botafumeiro, the incense burner. If you want to see some extraordinary parts of the temple, such as the magnificent Portico of the Glory, you will have to pay. And in high season in Santiago, tickets are usually sold out. Montserrat is the classic day trip from Barcelona. In theory, you can buy tickets on the day of the tour. But if you want to avoid the queues at the ticket office first thing in the morning, when everyone is going to Montserrat, book your passes in advance, whether it's the more basic Trans Montserrat or the more comprehensive Tot Montserrat. We enter a new category of attractions where buying the ticket in advance is from recommended to highly recommended. Here we have included attractions where if you are going to visit them during the high season and if you want to secure your tickets, you'd better book your tickets in advance. In the Real Alcázar of Seville, in high season, it is easy for anyone arriving without a ticket not to be able to enter that day. In any other season, it is possible to get a ticket early in the day without a reservation, but we would not risk it. Exactly the same goes for the Seville Cathedral and the Giralda Tower, which are visited with the same ticket. If you want to avoid long lines or frustration, make sure you book your tickets in advance because we're talking about one of the most visited attractions in Seville. And still in the capital of Andalusia, the spectacular Zetas operate with a time slot entry system, so arriving without tickets, especially in the late afternoon when everyone wants to go up to see the sunset and the nightly light show, can mean a long wait or simply not being able to get in. Spain's most famous museum, the Prado Museum, receives a large number of visitors. In low season and early in the morning, it shouldn't be too difficult to buy a ticket on the spot without waiting for too long in line. But at any other time of the year, it is highly recommended to arrive with a ticket to avoid queues. In Spain, there are two Picasso museums, one in Barcelona and one in Malaga. For both, it is highly recommended to book your ticket in advance to avoid long queues. And attention, because I have seen tourists trying to get into the Picasso Museum in Barcelona with tickets for the Picasso Museum in Malaga, which are two completely different institutions. Pay attention when you book the tickets. The Dalí Theatre Museum in Figueres, besides being the largest work ever created by Dalí, is a very critical place, especially in high season and during weekends, when buying a ticket in advance becomes almost a must. The beautiful Tavira Tower in Cádiz operates in a very small space and without restriction on the number of visitors, so in high season it would be highly recommended to book the entrance in advance. If you arrive at the Royal Palace in Madrid without a ticket, you should not have a problem gaining access, but you may have to wait in a long queue. A ticket purchased in advance allows you to skip the line. We are going to mention now several wineries, but the recommendation is valid for almost all of them. If you're thinking of visiting a famous winery such as Codorniu or Freixenet in Catalonia or Tío Pepe in Andalusia, and especially small wineries, it may be a good idea to book the visit in advance because the number of visitors is limited and because, even more important, the number of hours with visits each day can be very small. The same goes for flamenco shows as for visit to the wineries. The flamenco tablaos, where the performances take place, are small and the number of seats is limited. If you are interested in seeing a particular flamenco show, be sure to reserve your ticket in advance. The last category of recommendations is the most critical of all. We are not talking here about avoiding queues, but about missing out on seeing a place because you don't have a ticket purchased in advance. These are tickets that you have to buy in advance, yes or yes, regardless of the season in which you visit the place. The last place on our list is the most critical of all and the one that has upset more uninformed travelers. Tickets for the Caminito del Rey in the province of Malaga are sold out quickly in high season, even several weeks in advance. The only way to get a last-minute ticket is to try to book a guided tour, and we'll leave you several links to those tours. To visit one of the most beautiful places on the coast of the Basque Country, San Juan de Gaztelugatxe in the province of Vizcaya, you don't have to pay, but if you don't have a reservation, you won't be able to enter. Be careful because these reservations are sold out weeks in advance in high season. Another work of Gaudi on the list. Do you want to visit Park Güell in Barcelona? Book your ticket in advance. There are no longer ticket sales in the park itself, and as the number of visitors is controlled, it is essential to book your place in advance to avoid being left out. The Sagrada Familia, Barcelona's most visited monument, Gaudi's unfinished work, requires prior reservation to enter the temple at the appointed time. Don't miss out on seeing the incredible interior of the Sagrada Familia because you haven't booked your tickets in advance. Finally, in the number one spot of the most critical monuments in Spain is the Alhambra in Granada. We will not tire of warning you. You must book your Alhambra ticket as soon as you have confirmed the dates of your visit to Granada. In high season, it may be necessary to purchase those tickets many weeks in advance. Don't travel to Granada to miss out on one of the most incredible sights on the Iberian Peninsula. And with the exciting Alhambra ends our basic review of the importance of buying tickets in advance. In this world, nothing is black and white except for the tickets. We have labeled in red the ones you must book in advance. In all the other cases, you may get a ticket without booking in advance, or you may not. It is impossible to tell for sure, and no one will be able to give you guarantees on that regard. Also, just because a tourist attraction is not on the list, it does not mean that you are guaranteed entry if you arrive without a ticket. There are thousands and thousands of tourist attractions in Spain, and we wanted to talk about the most popular ones. We may have left out some of them. If you have any questions, let us know in the commentary section, where we always welcome your questions on the subject of the video. And it is not only for tourist attractions that it is a good idea to secure your ticket. It is also very important to buy your high-speed train tickets as far in advance as possible if you want to pay the cheapest fares. Traveling by high-speed train in Spain is a delight. And now you are watching on the screen the collection of videos we have dedicated to the subject. We want you to travel at high speed in Spain with great comfort and ease. Do not miss those videos, we're waiting for you in them from now.